Think and Grow Rich Summary. Introduction. Thoughts are things. The most potent force available to a human being is not physical strength, nor is it education or social standing. It is the power of thought. When a thought is magnetized with a definite purpose, persistence, and a burning desire, it translates itself into material rewards. A thought is a thing. It is a powerful form of energy that shapes reality. The path to success begins with a psychological shift. You must understand that you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, because you have the power to control your thoughts. Your brain becomes magnetized with the dominating thoughts you hold in your mind. These magnets attract forces, people, and circumstances of life which harmonize with the nature of your dominating thoughts. Before you can accumulate riches in great abundance, you must magnetize your mind with an intense desire for riches. You must become money conscious until the desire for money drives you to create definite plans for acquiring it. Consider the story of Edwin Barnes. He discovered that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come all at once. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great inventor Thomas Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes's desire was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. When this desire first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. He did not know Mr. Edison, and he did not have enough money to pay his railroad fare to New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally decided to travel by freight train rather than be defeated. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with the inventor. Years later, Edison said that Barnes looked like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after. Most people fail because they stop 3 feet from gold. This is a metaphorical concept based on a real story. Imagine a young man who is caught by gold fever. He stakes a claim and goes to work with a pick and shovel. After weeks of labor, he is rewarded by the discovery of the shining ore. He needs machinery to bring the ore to the surface. He covers up the mine, returns home, and raises the money from relatives and neighbors. They buy the machinery and ship it to the mine. The first car of ore is mined and shipped to a smelter. The returns prove they have one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of that ore would clear the debts. Then would come the big killing in profits. Down went the drills. Up went the hopes. Then something happened. The vein of gold ore disappeared. They had come to the end of the rainbow, and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on, desperately trying to pick up the vein again, but to no avail. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and took the train back home. The junk man called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculations showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the previous owners had stopped drilling. That is exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert counsel before giving up. In modern life, this happens when an entrepreneur shuts down a startup 1 month before a major market shift would have made their product essential. Or a writer stops submitting manuscripts after 20 rejections, not knowing the 21st publisher would have said yes. Success usually disguises itself as a temporary defeat just before it arrives. The secret to wealth is actually a state of mind that refuses to accept failure as anything other than a lesson. Before we dive into the secret of getting rich, I have a quick question for you. What is the one big goal you are thinking about right now that you have not started yet because you are waiting for the perfect time? Let me know in the comments below. Chapter 1. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Desire is the starting point of all achievement. It is not a hope. It is not a wish. It is a keen, pulsating desire which transcends everything else. It is a definite chief aim. To achieve greatness or wealth, you must want it with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then plan definite ways and means to acquire riches, and back those plans with persistence which does not recognize failure. Every human being who reaches the age of understanding the purpose of money wishes for it. Wishing will not bring riches, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches, and backing those plans with persistence which does not recognize failure, will bring riches. There is a method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent. This method consists of 6 definite practical steps. First, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. It is not sufficient merely to say you want plenty of money. Be definite as to the amount. There is a psychological reason for definiteness. If you do not know the target, you cannot hit it. A vague wish for more money usually leads to a vague life of mediocrity. You must say, for example, that you want exactly $100,000. Second, determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you desire. There is no such reality as something for nothing. You must define the service or value you will provide. This is the law of compensation. You cannot harvest a crop unless you have planted seeds. You must decide if you will give your time, your labor, your specialized knowledge, or a specific product. Third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money you desire. A goal without a deadline is just a dream. The deadline forces your subconscious mind to work on a schedule. It creates urgency. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. This is the step where most people fail. They wait for the perfect plan or the perfect time. Neither exists. You must start with whatever plan you have and correct it as you go. Action is the fuel that ignites the plan. Fifth, write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limit for its acquisition, state what you intend to give in return for the money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Writing it down crystallizes the thought. It takes it from the abstract world of imagination and puts it into the physical world of paper and ink. This is the first step of creation. Sixth, read your written statement aloud, twice daily. Once just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, you must see and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. This is not just reading words, it is emotionalizing them. You must mix emotion with the words to impress them upon your subconscious mind. Consider a fictional example of a young graphic designer named Sarah. Sarah is tired of her low-paying agency job. She does not just wish for a better life. She applies the 6 steps. 1. She decides she wants to earn $200,000 a year. 2. She decides she will provide high-end branding packages for eco-friendly startups. 3. She sets a date exactly 2 years from today. 4. Her plan is to build a portfolio on weekends, cold email 5 founders a day, and launch a website. She starts that very night. 5. She writes this manifesto on a card she keeps in her wallet. 6. She reads it every morning and night, visualizing the bank transfer notifications on her phone. By doing this, Sarah is not just hoping, she is impressing instructions upon her subconscious mind. The skepticism of the practical mind might say this is foolish, but the practical mind is often the reason for poverty. You must suspend disbelief. Only those who become money conscious ever accumulate great riches. Money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can see oneself already in possession of it. Another crucial aspect of desire is the willingness to burn your bridges. A long while ago, a great warrior faced a situation which made it necessary for him to make a decision which ensured his success on the battlefield. He was about to send his armies against a powerful foe whose men outnumbered his own. He loaded his soldiers into boats, sailed to the enemy's country, unloaded soldiers and equipment, then gave the order to burn the ships that had carried them. Addressing his men before the first battle, he said that they saw the boats going up in smoke. That meant that they could not leave those shores alive unless they won. They had no choice but to win or perish. They won. Every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut all sources of retreat. Only by so doing can one be sure of maintaining that state of mind, known as a burning desire to win. essential to success. If you have a safety net, you will likely fall into it. If you have no option but to succeed, your mind will find a way. Chapter 2. Faith, visualization of and belief in attainment of desire. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence. Faith is a state of mind which may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of auto-suggestion. Faith is the only known antidote for failure. It is the element that transforms the ordinary vibration of thought created by the finite mind of man into the spiritual equivalent. It is a state of mind you must develop voluntarily. You do not need to have faith to start. You develop it by acting as if you have it. Repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. If a man repeats a lie over and over, he will eventually accept the lie as truth. Moreover, he will believe it to be the truth. Every man is what he is because of the dominating thoughts which he permits to occupy his mind. Thoughts which a man deliberately places in his own mind and encourages with sympathy, and with which he mixes any one or more of the emotions, constitute the motivating forces which direct and control his every movement, act, and deed. To build faith, you must eliminate fear and doubt. A practical formula for this involves signing your name to a commitment to yourself. This is known as the self-confidence formula. First, know that you have the ability to achieve the object of your definite purpose in life. Therefore, demand of yourself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment, and promise to render such action. This addresses the fear of inadequacy. By asserting your ability, you begin to believe in it. Second, realize the dominating thoughts of your mind will eventually reproduce themselves in outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, concentrate your thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person you intend to become, thereby creating in your mind a clear mental picture of that person. This utilizes the law of focus. What you focus on expands. By visualizing the successful version of yourself, you provide a blueprint for your subconscious to build. Third, know that through the principle of auto-suggestion, any desire that you persistently hold in your mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object back of it. Therefore, devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of yourself the development of self-confidence. This reinforces the mechanism of success. It reminds you that the tool of auto-suggestion is always available. Fourth, clearly write down a description of your definite chief aim in life, and never stop trying until you have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. This ties your confidence to a specific goal. Confidence in a vacuum is useless. It must be directed toward a target. Fifth, realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, engage in no transaction which does not benefit all whom it affects. You will succeed by attracting to yourself the forces you wish to use and the cooperation of other people. You will induce others to serve you because of your willingness to serve others. You will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity, because you know that a negative attitude toward others can never bring you success. You will cause others to believe in you because you will believe in them and in yourself. Faith is often misunderstood as purely religious. In the context of success, faith is a psychological utility. It is total conviction in the absence of evidence. Imagine an inventor working in a garage. He has failed 1,000 times. His bank account is empty. His friends tell him to get a real job. If he relies on logic, he quits. Logic looks at the past data of failure and predicts future data of more failure. Faith looks at the invisible potential. It overrides the current reality. This is why successful people often seem delusional to others before they succeed. They are operating on faith, which dictates that their internal vision is more real than the external circumstances. A person without faith sees an obstacle and stops. A person with faith sees an obstacle and assumes there is a way over, under, or through it, even if they cannot see the path yet. Faith is the glue that holds the other principles together. Without faith, the 6 steps of desire are merely a mechanical exercise. With faith, they become a magical process of creation. You must deceive your subconscious mind into believing you already have what you want. When you do this, the subconscious mind will provide you with the plans to get it. This is not magic in the sense of a fairy tale. It is the magic of psychology and the harnessing of natural laws. Just as electricity can kill or cook, depending on how it is used, the law of autosuggestion can lead you to peace and prosperity, or down into the valley of misery, failure, and death, according to your degree of understanding and application of it. If you fill your mind with fear, doubt, and unbelief in your ability to connect with and use the forces of infinite intelligence, the law of autosuggestion will take this spirit of unbelief and use it as a pattern by which your subconscious mind will translate it into its physical equivalent. Chapter 3. Autosuggestion. The medium for influencing the subconscious mind. Autosuggestion is a term which applies to all suggestions and all self-administered stimuli which reach one's mind through the 5 senses. Stated in another way, autosuggestion is self-suggestion. It is the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. Through the dominating thoughts, which one permits to remain in the conscious mind. Whether these thoughts be negative or positive is immaterial. The principle of autosuggestion voluntarily reaches the subconscious mind and influences it with these thoughts. No thought, whether it be negative or positive, can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of the principle of autosuggestion, with the exception of thoughts picked up from the ether. Stated differently, all sense impressions which are perceived through the 5 senses are stopped by the conscious thinking mind and may be either passed on to the subconscious mind or rejected at will. The conscious faculty serves, therefore, as an outer guard to the approach of the subconscious. Nature has so built man that he has absolute control over the material which reaches his subconscious mind through his 5 senses, although this is not meant to be construed as a statement that man always exercises this control. In the great majority of instances, he does not exercise it, which explains why so many people go through life in poverty. Recall what has been said about the subconscious mind resembling a fertile garden spot, in which weeds will grow in abundance if the seeds of more desirable crops are not sown therein. Autosuggestion is the agency of control through which an individual may voluntarily feed his subconscious mind on thoughts of a creative nature, or by neglect, permit thoughts of a destructive nature to find their way into this rich garden of the mind. The instructions given in the chapter on desire were to read aloud twice daily the written statement of your desire for money, and to see and feel yourself already in possession of the money. By following these instructions, you communicate the object of your desire directly to your subconscious mind in a spirit of absolute faith. Through repetition of this procedure, you voluntarily create thought habits which are favorable to your efforts to transmute desire into its monetary equivalent. It is important to remember that reading the words is of no consequence unless you mix emotion or feeling with your words. If you repeat 1,000,000 times the formula that you are getting better and better without mixing emotion and faith with your words, you will experience no desirable results. Your subconscious mind recognizes and acts upon only thoughts which have been well mixed with emotion or feeling. This is a fact of such importance as to warrant repetition in every chapter, because the lack of understanding of this is the main reason the majority of people who try to apply the principle of autosuggestion get no desirable results. Plain, unemotional words do not influence the subconscious mind. You will get no appreciable results until you learn to reach your subconscious mind with thoughts or spoken words which have been well emotionalized with belief. Think of the subconscious mind as a garden. Autosuggestion is the act of planting seeds. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and poverty by constantly saying you are broke or you cannot afford this, the garden will grow weeds of poverty. If you plant seeds of abundance, the garden grows wealth. The critical insight here is that the subconscious cannot tell the difference between a real event and a vividly imagined one. If you tell yourself you are successful with the same emotional intensity as if you just won a gold medal, the subconscious accepts it as fact and begins to steer your behavior to match that fact. Many people fail with affirmations because they read them robotically. Saying you are rich while feeling poor and skeptical is useless. The feeling is the fuel. You must generate the feeling of gratitude and excitement that you would feel if the money were actually in your hands at this very moment. Do not become discouraged if you cannot control and direct your emotions the first time you try to do so. Remember, there is no such possibility as something for nothing. Ability to reach and influence your subconscious mind has its price, and you must pay that price. You cannot cheat even if you desire to do so. The price of ability to influence your subconscious mind is everlasting persistence in applying the principles described here. You cannot develop the desired ability for a lower price. You and you alone must decide whether or not the reward for which you are striving, the money consciousness, is worth the price you must pay for it in effort. Chapter 4. Specialized knowledge, personal experiences or observations. There are two kinds of knowledge. One is general, the other is specialized. General knowledge, no matter how great in quantity or variety it may be, is of but little use in the accumulation of money. The faculties of the great universities possess, in the aggregate, practically every form of general knowledge known to civilization. Most of the professors have but little or no money. They specialize on teaching knowledge, but they do not specialize on the organization or the use of knowledge. Knowledge will not attract money unless it is organized and intelligently directed through practical plans of action to the definite end of accumulation of money. Lack of understanding of this fact has been the source of confusion to millions of people who falsely believe that knowledge is power. It is nothing of the sort. Knowledge is only potential power. It becomes power only when and if it is organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end. This missing link in all systems of education known to civilization today may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach their students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. Many people make the mistake of assuming that because Henry Ford had but little schooling, he was not a man of education. Those who make this mistake do not know Henry Ford, nor do they understand the real meaning of the word educate. That word is derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to educe, to draw out, to develop from within. An educated man is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated man is one who has so developed the faculties of his mind that he may acquire anything he wants, or its equivalent, without violating the rights of others. During the First World War, a Chicago newspaper published certain editorials in which, among other statements, Henry Ford was called an ignorant pacifist. Mr. Ford brought suit against the paper for libeling him. When the suit was tried in the courts, the attorneys for the paper pleaded justification and placed Mr. Ford himself on the witness stand for the purpose of proving to the jury that he was ignorant. The attorneys asked Mr. Ford a great variety of questions, all of them intended to prove that while he might possess considerable specialized knowledge pertaining to the manufacture of automobiles, he was, in the main, ignorant. Mr. Ford was plied with such questions as who was Benedict Arnold, and how many soldiers did the British send over to America to put down the rebellion of 1776? Finally, Mr. Ford became tired of this line of questioning, and in reply to a particularly offensive question, he leaned over, pointed his finger at the lawyer who had asked the question, and said, "If I should really want to answer the foolish question you have just asked, or any of the other questions you have been asking me, let me remind you that I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire to ask concerning the business to which I am devoting most of my efforts. Now, will you kindly tell me why I should clutter up my mind with general knowledge for the purpose of being able to answer questions when I have men around me who can supply any knowledge I require?" That answer floored the lawyer. Every person in the courtroom realized it was the answer, not of an ignorant man, but of a man of education. Any man is educated who knows where to get knowledge when he needs it, and how to organize that knowledge into definite plans of action. Through the assistance of his mastermind group, Henry Ford had at his command all the specialized knowledge he needed to enable him to become one of the wealthiest men in America. It was not essential that he have this knowledge in his own mind. The accumulation of great fortunes calls for power, and power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge. But that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the man who accumulates the fortune. This paragraph should give hope and encouragement to the man with ambition to accumulate a fortune, who has not possessed himself of the necessary education to supply such specialized knowledge as he may require. Consider the story of a man who wanted to build a great bridge, but knew nothing of engineering. He did not go back to school for 4 years to learn structural dynamics. Instead, he organized a mastermind group. He hired the best engineers, the best architects, and the best financial planners. He possessed the specialized knowledge of how to organize a team and how to visualize a completed project. In the information age, this is even more relevant. A person can build a software empire without knowing how to write code, provided they possess the specialized knowledge of product management and the ability to source the coding talent. Successful men in all callings never stop acquiring specialized knowledge related to their major purpose, business, or profession. Those who are not successful usually make the mistake of believing that the knowledge acquiring period ends when one finishes school. The truth is that schooling does but little more than to put one in the way of learning how to acquire practical knowledge. Chapter 5. Imagination, the workshop of the mind. The imagination is literally the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man. The impulse, the desire, is given shape, form, and action through the aid of the imaginative faculty of the mind. It has been said that man can create anything which he can imagine. Of all the ages of civilization, this is the most favorable for the development of the imagination, because it is an age of rapid change. On every hand, one may contact stimuli which develop the imagination. Through the aid of his imaginative faculty, man has discovered and harnessed more of nature's forces during the past 50 years than during the entire history of the human race previous to that time. He has conquered the air so completely that the birds are a poor match for him in flying. He has harnessed the ether and made it serve as a means of instantaneous communication with any part of the world. He has analyzed and weighed the sun at a distance of millions of miles and has determined, through the aid of imagination, the elements of which it consists. He has discovered that his own brain is both a broadcasting and a receiving station for the vibration of thought, and he is beginning now to learn how to make practical use of this discovery. The imaginative faculty functions in two forms. One is known as synthetic imagination, and the other as creative imagination. Through synthetic imagination, one may arrange old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. This faculty creates nothing. It merely works with the material of experience, education, and observation with which it is fed. It is the faculty used most by the inventor, with the exception of the genius who draws upon the creative imagination when he cannot solve his problem through synthetic imagination. Through the faculty of creative imagination, the finite mind of man has direct communication with infinite intelligence. It is the faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. It is by this faculty that all basic or new ideas are handed over to man. It is through this faculty that thought vibrations from the minds of others are received. It is through this faculty that one individual may tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of other men. The creative imagination works automatically. This faculty functions only when the conscious mind is vibrating at an exceedingly rapid rate, as for example, when the conscious mind is stimulated through the emotion of a strong desire. Ideas are the beginning points of all fortunes. Ideas are products of the imagination. Let us examine a well-known idea which yielded huge fortunes, with the hope that this illustration will convey definite information concerning the method by which imagination may be used in accumulating riches. 50 years ago, an old country doctor drove to town, hitched his horse, quietly slipped into a drugstore by the back door, and began dickering with the young drug clerk. His mission was destined to yield great wealth to many people. It was destined to bring to the South the most far-flung benefits since the Civil War. For more than an hour, behind the prescription counter, the old doctor and the clerk talked in low tones. Then the doctor left. He went out to the buggy and brought back a large old-fashioned kettle, a big wooden paddle used for stirring the contents of the kettle, and deposited them in the back of the store. The clerk inspected the kettle, reached into his inside pocket, took out a roll of bills and handed it over to the doctor. The roll contained exactly $500, the clerk's entire savings. The doctor handed over a small slip of paper on which was written a secret formula. The words on that small slip of paper were worth a king's ransom, but not to the doctor. Those magic words were needed to start the kettle to boiling. But neither the doctor nor the young clerk knew what fabulous fortunes were destined to flow from that kettle. The old doctor was glad to sell the outfit for $500. The money would pay off his debts and give him freedom of mind. The clerk was taking a big chance by staking his entire life savings on a mere scrap of paper and an old kettle. He never dreamed his investment would start a kettle to overflowing with gold that would surpass the miraculous performance of Aladdin's lamp. What the clerk really purchased was an idea. The old kettle and the wooden paddle and the secret message on a slip of paper were incidental. The strange performance of that kettle began to take place after the new owner mixed with the secret instructions an ingredient of which the doctor knew nothing. This tells the story of the most famous soft drink in the world. It is a story of imagination. The clerk bought an idea. He used his imagination to understand that the formula was not just a medicine, but a refreshing beverage that could be marketed to the entire world. He added the ingredient the doctor lacked, which was imagination in marketing. The result was a fortune. Synthetic imagination is what most people use. They take existing ideas, such as a taxi service and an app, and combine them to create ride-sharing. Creative imagination is rarer. It is the spark that creates something entirely new, often coming during moments of high mental vibration or strong emotion. To become rich, you must dust off your imagination, which may have become weak from inaction, and put it to work creating plans. Transformation of the intangible impulse of desire into the tangible reality of money calls for the use of a plan or plans. These plans must be formed with the aid of the imagination, and mainly with the synthetic faculty. Read the entire book through, then come back to this chapter, and begin at once to put your imagination to work on the building of a plan or plans for the transformation of your desire into money. Detailed instructions for the building of plans have been given in almost every chapter. Carry out the instructions best suited to your needs, reduce your plan to writing if you have not already done so. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. Chapter 6. Organized Planning, the crystallization of desire into action. You have learned that everything man creates or acquires begins in the form of desire. That desire is taken on the first lap of its journey, from the abstract to the concrete, into the workshop of the imagination, where plans for its transition are created and organized. You were instructed to take 6 definite practical steps as your first move in translating the desire for money into its monetary equivalent. One of these steps is the formation of a definite practical plan or plans through which this transformation may be made. You will now be instructed on how to build plans which will be practical. Ally yourself with a group of as many people as you may need for the creation and carrying out of your plan or plans for the accumulation of money. This is the mastermind principle. Compliance with this instruction is absolutely essential. Do not neglect it. Before forming your mastermind alliance, decide what advantages and benefits you may offer the individual members of your group in return for their cooperation. No one will work indefinitely without some form of compensation. No intelligent person will either request or expect another to work without adequate compensation, although this may not always be in the form of money. Arrange to meet with the members of your mastermind group at least twice a week, and more often if possible, until you have jointly perfected the necessary plan or plans for the accumulation of money. Maintain perfect harmony between yourself and every member of your mastermind group. If you fail to carry out this instruction to the letter, you may expect to meet with failure. The mastermind principle cannot obtain where perfect harmony does not prevail. Keep in mind that you are engaged in an undertaking of major importance to you. To be sure of success, You must have plans which are faultless. You must have the advantage of the experience, education, native ability, and imagination of other minds. This is in harmony with the methods followed by every person who has accumulated a great fortune. No individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people. Every plan you adopt in your endeavor to accumulate wealth should be the joint creation of yourself and every other member of your mastermind group. If the first plan which you adopt does not work successfully, replace it with a new plan. If this new plan fails to work, replace it in turn with still another, and so on, until you find a plan which does work. Right here is the point at which the majority of men meet with failure, because of their lack of persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those which fail. The most intelligent man living cannot succeed in accumulating money, nor in any other undertaking, without plans which are practical and workable. Just keep this fact in mind, and remember when your plans fail that temporary defeat is not permanent failure. It may only mean that your plans have not been sound. Build other plans. Start all over again. Temporary defeat should mean only one thing: the certain knowledge that there is something wrong with your plan. Millions of men go through life in misery and poverty because they lack a sound plan through which to accumulate a fortune. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. This chapter also details the requirements of leadership, as most fortunes are built by leaders. Broadly speaking, there are two types of people in the world. One type is known as leaders, and the other as followers. Decide at the outset whether you intend to become a leader in your chosen calling or remain a follower. The difference in compensation is vast. The follower cannot reasonably expect the compensation to which a leader is entitled. Although many followers make the mistake of expecting such pay, it is no disgrace to be a follower. On the other hand, it is no credit to remain a follower. Most great leaders began in the capacity of followers. They became great leaders because they were intelligent followers. With few exceptions, the man who cannot follow a leader intelligently cannot become an efficient leader. The man who can follow a leader most efficiently is usually the man who develops into leadership most rapidly. Important factors of leadership include unwavering courage based upon knowledge of self and of occupation. No follower wishes to be dominated by a leader who lacks self-confidence and courage. Self-control is essential. The man who cannot control himself can never control others. A keen sense of justice is required. Without a sense of fairness and justice, no leader can command and retain the respect of his followers. Definiteness of decision is vital. The man who wavers in his decisions shows that he is not sure of himself. Definiteness of plans is crucial. The successful leader must plan his work and work his plan. The habit of doing more than paid for is one of the penalties of leadership. It is the necessity of willingness upon the part of the leader to do more than he requires of his followers. A pleasing personality is necessary. No slovenly, careless person can become a successful leader. Leadership calls for respect. Sympathy and understanding are required. The successful leader must be in sympathy with his followers. Mastery of detail is needed. Successful leadership calls for mastery of details of the position. Willingness to assume full responsibility is a must. The successful leader must be willing to assume responsibility for the mistakes and the shortcomings of his followers. Cooperation is the final key. The successful leader must understand and apply the principle of cooperative effort and be able to induce his followers to do the same. There are 30 major causes of failure. The most common include lack of a well-defined purpose, lack of ambition, insufficient education, lack of self-discipline, ill health, unfavorable environmental influences during childhood, and procrastination. You must analyze yourself annually to see if you are advancing or stepping backward. This analysis should disclose a decrease in faults and an increase in virtues. One goes ahead, stands still, or goes backward in life. One should aim to go ahead. Annual self-analysis will disclose whether advancement has been made, and if so, how much. It will also disclose any backward steps one may have made. The effective marketing of personal services requires one to move forward even if the progress is slow. Consider the QQS formula: quality plus quantity plus the proper spirit of cooperation equals perfect salesmanship of service. Quality of service shall be construed to mean the performance of every detail in connection with your position in the most efficient manner possible, with the object of greater efficiency always in mind. Quantity of service shall be understood to mean the habit of rendering all the service of which you are capable, at all times, with the purpose of increasing the amount of service rendered as greater skill is developed through practice and experience. Spirit of service shall be construed to mean the habit of agreeable, harmonious conduct, which will induce cooperation from associates and fellow employees. Adequacy of quality and quantity of service is not sufficient to maintain a permanent market for your services. The conduct or the spirit in which you deliver service is a strong determining factor in connection with both the price you receive and the duration of employment. Chapter 7. Decision. The mastery of procrastination. Analysis of over 25,000 men and women who had experienced failure disclosed the fact that lack of decision was near the head of the list of the 30 major causes of failure. This is no mere statement of a theory. It is a fact. Procrastination, the opposite of decision, is a common enemy which practically every man must conquer. You will have an opportunity to test your capacity to reach quick and definite decisions when you finish reading this book and are ready to begin putting into action the principles which it describes. Analysis of several hundred people who had accumulated fortunes well beyond the $1 million mark disclosed the fact that every one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and of changing these decisions slowly, if and when they were changed. People who fail to accumulate money without exception have the habit of reaching decisions, if at all, very slowly, and of changing these decisions quickly and often. One of Henry Ford's most outstanding qualities was his habit of reaching decisions quickly and definitely, and changing them slowly. This quality was so pronounced in Mr. Ford that it gave him the reputation of being obstinate. It was this quality which prompted Mr. Ford to continue to manufacture his famous Model T, the world's ugliest car, when all of his advisors and many of the purchasers of the car were urging him to change it. Perhaps Mr. Ford delayed too long in making the change, but the other side of the story is that Mr. Ford's firmness of decision yielded a huge fortune before the change in model became necessary. The majority of people who fail to accumulate money sufficient for their needs are generally easily influenced by the opinions of others. They permit the newspapers and the gossiping neighbors to do their thinking for them. Opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. Everyone has a flock of opinions ready to be wished upon anyone who will accept them. If you are influenced by opinions, when you reach decisions, you will not succeed in any undertaking, much less in that of transmuting your own desire into money. If you are influenced by the opinions of others, you will have no desire of your own. Keep your own counsel when you begin to put into practice the principles described here by reaching your own decisions and following them. Take no one into your confidence, except the members of your mastermind group, and be very sure in your selection of this group that you choose only those who will be in complete sympathy and harmony with your purpose. Close friends and relatives, while not meaning to do so, often handicap one through opinions and sometimes through ridicule, which is meant to be humorous. Thousands of men and women carry inferiority complexes with them all through life because some well-meaning but ignorant person destroyed their confidence through opinions or ridicule. You have a brain and mind of your own. Use it and reach your own decisions. Indecision is a thief of opportunity. Imagine two business owners facing a recession. Owner A hears rumors of a downturn. He worries. He asks his brother-in-law what to do. He waits to see what competitors do. He delays cutting costs or pivoting his product. By the time he decides to act, his cash flow is dry. He fails. Owner B sees the data. She makes a prompt decision to pivot her business model to online sales. She commits to this decision. When friends tell her it is risky, she ignores them. She changes her course only if substantial data proves she is wrong, not because of fear. She survives and thrives. Definiteness of decision requires courage. The 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence staked their lives on a decision. Financial independence requires the same level of commitment. The person who reaches a definite decision to procure the particular job and make life pay the price he asks does not stake his life on that decision. He stakes his economic freedom. Financial independence, riches, desirable business, and professional positions are not within reach of the person who neglects or refuses to expect, plan, and demand these things. Chapter 8. Persistence, the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. Persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of will. Willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. Men who accumulate great fortunes are generally known as cold-blooded and sometimes ruthless. Often they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower, which they mix with persistence and place back of their desires to ensure the attainment of their objectives. The majority of people are ready to throw their aims and purposes overboard and give up at the first sign of opposition or misfortune. A few carry on despite all opposition until they attain their goal. There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the quality is to the character of man what carbon is to steel. The building of a fortune, generally, involves the application of the entire 13 factors of this philosophy. These principles must be understood. They must be applied with persistence by all who accumulate money. If you are following this book with the intention of applying the knowledge it conveys, your first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to follow the 6 steps described in the 2nd chapter. Unless you are one of the 2 out of every 100 who already have a definite goal at which you are aiming and a definite plan for its attainment, you may read the instructions and then pass on with your daily routine and never comply with those instructions. The author is checking you up at this point because lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure. Moreover, experience with thousands of people has proved that lack of persistence is a weakness common to the majority of men. It is a weakness which may be overcome by effort. The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, this weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desires. Fortunes gravitate to men whose minds have been prepared to attract them, just as surely as water gravitates to the ocean. If you find you are weak in persistence, center your attention upon the instructions contained in the chapter on power. Surround yourself with a mastermind group, and through the cooperative efforts of the members of this group, you can develop persistence. You will find additional instructions for the development of persistence in the chapters on autosuggestion and the subconscious mind. Follow the instructions until your habit nature hands over to your subconscious mind a clear picture of the object of your desire. From that point on, you will not be handicapped by lack of persistence. There are 8 factors of persistence. 1. Definiteness of purpose. Knowing what you want is the first and perhaps the most important step toward the development of persistence. A strong motive forces one to surmount many difficulties. 2. Desire. It is comparatively easy to acquire and to maintain persistence in pursuing the object of intense desire. 3. Self-reliance. Belief in one's ability to carry out a plan encourages one to follow the plan through with persistence. 4. Definiteness of plans. Organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, encourage persistence. 5. Accurate knowledge. Knowing that one's plans are sound, based upon experience or observation, encourages persistence. Guessing instead of knowing destroys persistence. 6. Cooperation. Sympathy, understanding, and harmonious cooperation with others tend to develop persistence. 7. Willpower. The habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose leads to persistence. 8. Habit. Persistence is the direct result of habit. The mind absorbs and becomes a part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetition of acts of courage. Consider the story of a writer. She writes a novel, she sends it to a publisher. It is rejected. If she lacks persistence, She says that she is not a good writer, and she stops. If she possesses persistence, she says that this publisher did not understand her work, and she sends it to another. She does this 100 times if necessary. Persistence is a state of mind. Therefore, it can be cultivated. Fear of criticism is the primary enemy of persistence. Many people refuse to set high goals because they fear the criticism of relatives and friends if they fail. To achieve wealth, you must become immune to the criticism of others. There is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this, and it will hearten you in the beginning, when the going may seem difficult and slow. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up toward the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears that there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test men through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, "Bravo, I knew you could do it." The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who cannot take it simply do not make the grade. Chapter 9. Power of the mastermind. The driving force. Power is essential for success in the accumulation of money. Plans are inert and useless without sufficient power to translate them into action. Power may be defined as organized and intelligently directed knowledge. Power is required for the accumulation of money, and it is necessary for the retention of money after it has been accumulated. The mastermind may be defined as coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. No individual may have great power without availing himself of the mastermind. In a preceding chapter, instructions were given for the creation of plans for the purpose of translating desire into its monetary equivalent. If you carry out these instructions with persistence and intelligence, and use discrimination in the selection of your mastermind group, your objective will have been halfway reached, even before you begin to recognize it. There are two characteristics of the mastermind principle, one of which is economic in nature, and the other psychic. The economic feature is obvious. Economic advantages may be created by any person who surrounds himself with the advice, counsel, and personal cooperation of a group of men who are willing to lend him wholehearted aid in a spirit of perfect harmony. This form of cooperative alliance has been the basis of nearly every great fortune. Your understanding of this great truth may definitely determine your financial status. The psychic phase of the mastermind principle is much more abstract and much more difficult to comprehend, because it has reference to the spiritual forces with which the human race as a whole is not well acquainted. You may catch a significant suggestion from this statement that no two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. The human mind is a form of energy, a part of it being spiritual in nature. When the minds of two people are coordinated in a spirit of harmony, the spiritual units of energy of each mind form an affinity, which constitutes the psychic phase of the mastermind. Energy is nature's universal set of building blocks, out of which she constructs every material thing in the universe, including man and every form of animal and vegetable life. Through a process which only nature completely understands, she translates energy into matter. The human brain may be compared to an electric battery. It absorbs energy from the ether, which permeates every atom of matter and fills the entire universe. It is a well-known fact that a group of electric batteries will provide more energy than a single battery. It is also a well-known fact that an individual battery will provide energy in proportion to the number and capacity of the cells it contains. The brain functions in a similar fashion. This accounts for the fact that some brains are more efficient than others, and leads to this significant statement that a group of brains coordinated or connected in a spirit of harmony will provide more thought energy than a single brain, just as a group of electric batteries will provide more energy than a single battery. Through this metaphor, it becomes immediately obvious that the mastermind principle holds the secret of the power wielded by men who surround themselves with other men of brains. When a group of individual brains are coordinated and function in harmony, the increased energy created through that alliance becomes available to every individual brain in the group. It is a well-known fact that Henry Ford began his business career under the handicap of poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance. It is an equally well-known fact that, within the inconceivably short period of 10 years, Mr. Ford mastered these three handicaps, and that within 25 years, he made himself one of the richest men in America. Connect with this fact the additional knowledge that Mr. Ford's most rapid strides became noticeable from the time he became a personal friend of Thomas A. Edison, and you will begin to understand what the influence of one mind upon another can accomplish. Go a step farther and consider the fact that Mr. Ford's most outstanding achievements began from the time that he formed the acquaintances of Harvey Firestone, John Burroughs, and Luther Burbank, each a man of great brain capacity, and you will have further evidence that power may be produced through friendly alliance of minds. The economic advantage is obvious. Money and success require the cooperation of others. You cannot build a railroad alone. You cannot build a global tech company alone. The psychic advantage is more abstract. It suggests that human brains are like batteries. A group of batteries provides more energy than a single one. When minds connect in harmony, they stimulate each other. They tap into sources of knowledge that a single mind cannot access. Andrew Carnegie attributed his entire fortune to his mastermind group of approximately 50 men. He knew nothing of the technical making of steel, but he mastered the men who did know. He surrounded himself with the power of their minds. This is not just about hiring employees. It is about creating a unified mind that is greater than the sum of its parts. Chapter 10. The Mystery of Sex Transmutation. The meaning of the word transmute is, in simple language, the changing or transferring of one element or form of energy into another. The emotion of sex brings into being a state of mind. Because of ignorance on the subject, this state of mind is generally associated with the physical, and because of improper influences to which most people have been subjected in acquiring knowledge of sex, things essentially physical have highly biased the mind. The emotion of sex has back of it the possibility of three constructive potentialities. They are the perpetuation of mankind, the maintenance of health, and the transformation of mediocrity into genius through transmutation. Sex transmutation is simple and easily explained. It means the switching of the mind from thoughts of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature. Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. So strong and impelling is the desire for sexual contact that men freely run the risk of life and reputation to indulge it. When harnessed and redirected along other lines, this motivating force maintains all of its attributes of keenness, of imagination, courage, and willpower, which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling, including, of course, the accumulation of riches. The transmutation of sex energy calls for the exercise of willpower, to be sure, but the reward is worth the effort. The desire for sexual expression is inborn and natural. The desire cannot and should not be submerged or eliminated, but it should be given an outlet through forms of expression which enrich the body, mind, and spirit of man. If not given this form of outlet, through transmutation, it will seek outlets through purely physical channels. A river may be dammed and its water controlled for a time, but eventually it will force an outlet. The same is true of the emotion of sex. It may be submerged and controlled for a time, but its very nature causes it to be ever seeking means of expression. If it is not transmuted into some creative effort, it will find a less worthy outlet. Scientific research has disclosed these significant facts. The men of greatest achievement are men with highly developed sex natures who have learned the art of sex transmutation. The men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition in literature, art, industry, architecture, and the professions were motivated by the influence of a woman. The emotion of sex is an irresistible force, against which there can be no such opposition as an immovable body. When driven by this emotion, men become gifted with a superpower for action. Understand this truth, and you will catch the significance of the statement that sex transmutation will lift one to the status of a genius. The emotion of sex contains the secret of creative ability. There never has been and never will be a great leader, builder, or artist lacking in this driving force of sex. Surely no one will misunderstand these statements to mean that all who are highly sexed are geniuses. Man attains to the status of a genius only when and if he stimulates his mind so that it draws upon the forces available through the creative faculty of the imagination. Chief among the stimuli with which this stepping up of the vibrations may be produced is sex energy. The mere possession of this energy is not sufficient to produce a genius. The energy must be transmuted from desire for physical contact into some other form of desire and action, before it will lift one to the status of a genius. Far from becoming geniuses because of great sex desires, the majority of men lower themselves through misunderstanding and misuse of this great force to the status of the lower animals. Analysis of over 25,000 people disclosed that men who succeed in an outstanding way seldom do so before the age of 40, and more often they do not strike their real pace until they are well beyond the age of 50. This fact was so astounding that it prompted a study of its cause. This study disclosed the fact that the major reason why the majority of men who succeed do not begin to do so before the age of 40 to 50 is their tendency to dissipate their energies through overindulgence in physical expression of the emotion of sex. The majority of men never learn that the urge of sex has other possibilities, which far transcend in importance that of mere physical expression. The majority of those who make this discovery do so after having wasted many years at a period when the sex energy is at its height, prior to the age of 45 to 50. This usually is followed by noteworthy achievement. This chapter is often considered the most controversial, but it is purely practical. It posits that sexual energy is simply biological energy. It is high-octane fuel. A man or woman with high sex drive has a lot of energy in them. If they use all that energy purely for physical gratification, they dissipate their power. If they harness that drive, using the willpower to abstain from physical expression and channeling that frustration or drive into their work, they work with a ferocity and creativity that others cannot match. The author notes that most men do not achieve great success until after the age of 40. This is because prior to 40, they tend to dissipate their energies physically. After 40, they learn to channel that energy into their careers. The greatest salesmen, artists, and leaders are almost always highly sexed individuals who have learned the art of transmutation. Chapter 11. The Subconscious Mind. The Connecting Link. The subconscious mind consists of a field of consciousness in which every impulse of thought that reaches the objective mind through any of the five senses is classified and recorded, and from which thoughts may be recalled or withdrawn as letters may be taken from a filing cabinet. It receives and files sense impressions or thoughts regardless of their nature. You may voluntarily plant in your subconscious mind any plan, thought, or purpose which you desire to translate into its physical or monetary equivalent. The subconscious acts first on the dominating desires which have been mixed with emotional feeling, such as faith. The subconscious mind works day and night. Through a method of procedure unknown to man, the subconscious mind draws upon the forces of infinite intelligence for the power with which it voluntarily transmutes one's desires into their physical equivalent, making use always of the most practical media by which this end may be accomplished. You cannot entirely control your subconscious mind, but you can voluntarily hand over to it any plan, desire, or purpose which you wish transformed into concrete form. There is plenty of evidence to support the belief that the subconscious mind is the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. It is the intermediary through which one may draw upon the forces of infinite intelligence at will. It alone contains the secret process by which mental impulses are modified and changed into their spiritual equivalent. It alone is the medium through which prayer may be transmitted to the source capable of answering prayer. The 13 principles are the stimuli with which you acquire the ability to reach and to influence your subconscious mind. Do not become discouraged if you cannot do this upon the first attempt. Remember that the subconscious mind may be voluntarily directed only through habit. You have not yet had time to master faith. Be patient and be persistent. the subconscious mind will not remain idle. If you fail to plant desires in your subconscious mind, it will feed upon the thoughts which reach it as the result of your neglect. You are living daily in the midst of all manner of thought impulses which are reaching your subconscious mind without your knowledge. Some of these impulses are negative, some are positive. You are now engaged in trying to help shut off the flow of negative impulses and to aid in voluntarily influencing your subconscious mind through positive impulses of desire. When you achieve this, you will possess the key which unlocks the door to your subconscious mind. Moreover, you will control that door so completely that no undesirable thought may influence your subconscious mind. Everything which man creates begins in the form of a thought impulse. Man can create nothing which he does not first conceive in thought. Through the aid of the imagination, thought impulses may be assembled into plans. The imagination, when under control, may be used for the creation of plans or purposes that lead to success in one's chosen occupation. All thought impulses intended for transmutation into their physical equivalent, voluntarily planted in the subconscious mind, must pass through the imagination and be mixed with faith. The mixing of faith with a plan or purpose intended for submission to the subconscious mind may be done only through the imagination. The subconscious mind is more susceptible to influence by impulses of thought mixed with feeling or emotion than by those originating solely in the reasoning portion of the mind. In fact, there is much evidence to support the theory that only emotionalized thoughts have any action influence upon the subconscious mind. It is a well-known fact that emotion or feeling rules the majority of people. There are 7 major positive emotions and 7 major negative emotions. The negatives voluntarily inject themselves into the thought impulses which ensure passage into the subconscious mind. The positives must be injected through the principle of autosuggestion into the thought impulses which an individual wishes to pass on to his subconscious mind. These emotions or feeling impulses may be likened to yeast in a loaf of bread because they constitute the action element which transforms thought impulses from the passive to the active state. The 7 major positive emotions are desire, faith, love, sex, enthusiasm, romance, and hope. The 7 major negative emotions to be avoided are fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, superstition, and anger. Positive and negative emotions cannot occupy the mind at the same time. One or the other must dominate. It is your responsibility to make sure that positive emotions constitute the dominating influence of your mind. Here, the law of habit will come to your aid. Form the habit of applying and using the positive emotions. Eventually, they will dominate your mind so completely that the negatives cannot enter it. Only by following these instructions literally and continuously can you gain control over your subconscious mind. The presence of a single negative in your conscious mind is sufficient to destroy all chances of constructive aid from your subconscious mind. If you are an observing person, you must have noticed that most people resort to prayer only after everything else has failed, or else they pray by a ritual of meaningless words. And because it is a fact that most people who pray do so only after everything else has failed, they go to prayer with their minds filled with fear and doubt, which are the emotions the subconscious mind acts upon and passes on to infinite intelligence. Likewise, that is the emotion which infinite intelligence receives and acts upon. If you pray for a thing, but have fear as you pray that you may not receive it, or that your prayer will not be acted upon by infinite intelligence, your prayer will have been in vain. Prayer does sometimes result in the realization of that for which one prays. If you have ever had the experience of receiving that for which you prayed, go back in your memory and recall your actual state of mind while you were praying, and you will know for sure that the theory here described is more than a theory. Think of your subconscious mind as a neutral garden. If you do not plant flowers, weeds will grow automatically. It is impartial. It will manifest poverty just as easily as wealth. If you feed your subconscious mind fear and poverty, it will realize those things in your life. If you feed it wealth and faith, it will work to create those realities. You must be the guardian of the gate, carefully selecting the emotionalized thoughts you allow to pass through to your subconscious. Chapter 12. The Brain. A broadcasting and receiving station for thought. Every human brain is both a broadcasting and receiving station for the vibration of thought. Through the medium of the ether, in a fashion similar to that employed by the radio broadcasting principle, every human brain is capable of picking up vibrations of thought which are being released by other brains. In connection with this statement, consider the description of the creative imagination. The creative imagination is the receiving set of the brain, which receives thoughts released by the brains of others. It is the agency of communication between one's conscious or reasoning mind and the four sources from which one may receive thought stimuli. When stimulated or stepped up to a high rate of vibration, the mind becomes more receptive to the vibration of thought, which reaches it through the ether from outside sources. This stepping up process takes place through the positive emotions or the negative emotions. Through the emotions, the vibrations of thought may be increased. Vibrations of an exceedingly high rate are the only vibrations picked up and carried by the ether from one brain to another. Thought is energy, traveling at an exceedingly high rate of vibration. Thought, which has been modified or stepped up by any of the major emotions, vibrates at a much higher rate than ordinary thought, and it is this type of thought which passes from one brain to another through the broadcasting machinery of the human brain. The emotion of sex stands at the head of the list of human emotions as far as intensity and driving force are concerned. The brain which has been stimulated by the emotion of sex vibrates at a much more rapid rate than it does when that emotion is quiescent or absent. The result of sex transmutation is the increase of the rate of vibration of thoughts to such a pitch that the creative imagination becomes highly receptive to ideas which it picks up from the ether. The subconscious mind is the sending station of the brain through which vibrations of thought are broadcast. The creative imagination is the receiving set through which the vibrations of thought are picked up from the ether. Along with the important factors of the subconscious mind and the faculty of the creative imagination, which constitute the sending and receiving sets of your mental broadcasting machinery, consider now the principle of autosuggestion, which is the medium by which you may put into operation your broadcasting station. Operation of your mental broadcasting station is a comparatively simple procedure. You have but three principles to bear in mind and to apply when you wish to use your broadcasting station. These are the subconscious mind, creative imagination, and autosuggestion. The stimuli through which you put these three principles into action have been described, and the procedure begins with desire. This concept suggests that thoughts are energy, traveling at an exceedingly high rate of vibration. When you are in a state of high mental stimulation, your brain can pick up ideas from other minds or from the infinite intelligence. This explains the phenomenon of telepathy, or why two people often have the same idea at the same time. To succeed, you must learn to operate your broadcasting station, to send out clear desires and receive creative ideas. Think of your brain as a radio. If the dial is not tuned, you hear only static. To hear the music or the clear signal of opportunity, you must tune the instrument. The tuning mechanism is emotion. A cold, logical mind does not transmit or receive well. A mind on fire with desire, faith, or love vibrates at a frequency that connects it to the universal network of intelligence. This is why enthusiasm is so critical in sales and leadership. It is not just an attitude, it is a signal frequency that others pick up subconsciously. Chapter 13. The Sixth Sense. The door to the Temple of Wisdom. The 13th principle is the sixth sense. It is the apex of the philosophy. It can be understood and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. The sixth sense is that portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It is the medium through which infinite intelligence may communicate voluntarily, without any effort from, or demands by, the individual. This is what is often called a hunch or inspiration. The sixth sense defies description. It cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of this philosophy, because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared. Understanding of the sixth sense comes only by meditation through mind development from within. After you have mastered the principles described in this book, You will be prepared to accept as truth a statement which may otherwise be incredible to you. Through the aid of the sixth sense, you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, and notified of opportunities in time to embrace them. There comes to your aid and to do your bidding, with the development of the sixth sense, a guardian angel who will open to you at all times the door to the temple of wisdom. The author is not a believer in nor an advocate of miracles, for the reason that he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. The sixth sense comes as near to being a miracle as anything one may experience, and it appears so only because we do not understand the method by which this principle is operated. This principle is not something that one can take off and put on at will. Ability to use this great power comes slowly, through application of the other principles outlined in this book. Seldom does any individual come into workable knowledge of the sixth sense before the age of 40. More often, the knowledge is not available until one is well past 50. And this is for the reason that the spiritual forces, with which the sixth sense is so closely related, do not mature and become usable except through years of meditation, self-examination, and serious thought. The author describes a technique of holding imaginary council meetings with great men of the past. By imagining men like Emerson, Lincoln, Edison, and Napoleon sitting at a table and asking them for advice, the author found he could tap into knowledge he did not know he possessed. This is a practical application of the sixth sense. It is using the imagination to access the universal storehouse of wisdom. By vividly simulating the personalities and minds of these great men, you tune your own reception frequency to match theirs. It sounds like fiction, but in practice it allows your mind to break out of its habitual ruts and access solutions that seem to come from nowhere. This is the intuition that guides the genius. It is the final level of mastery, where the accumulation of riches becomes an automatic process driven by a force greater than just your conscious logic. Chapter 14. How to Outwit the 6 Ghosts of Fear. Before you can put this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. The preparation is not difficult. It begins with study, analysis, and understanding of 3 enemies which you shall have to clear out. These are indecision, doubt, and fear. The sixth sense will never function while these 3 negatives or any of them remain in your mind. The members of this unholy trio are closely related. Where one is found, the other 2 are close at hand. Indecision is the seedling of fear. Indecision crystallizes into doubt, and the 2 blend to become fear. The blending process often is slow. This is one reason why these 3 enemies are so dangerous. They germinate and grow without their presence being observed. There are 6 basic fears, with some combination of which every human suffers at one time or another. You must analyze yourself and cure these fears. The first is the fear of poverty. It is the most destructive of the 6 basic fears. It paralyzes the faculty of reason, destroys the faculty of imagination, kills off self-reliance, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative, leads to uncertainty of purpose, encourages procrastination, wipes out enthusiasm, and makes self-control an impossibility. The symptoms include indifference, indecision, doubt, worry, overcaution, and procrastination. The cure is a decision to accumulate wealth and a refusal to accept poverty as a destiny. The second is the fear of criticism. This fear robs man of his initiative, destroys his power of imagination, limits his individuality, takes away his self-reliance, and does him damage in 100 other ways. Symptoms include self-consciousness, lack of poise, personality weakness, inferiority complex, extravagance, and lack of initiative. The cure is to reach a decision not to care what others think or say. The third is the fear of ill health. This fear may be traced to both physical and social heredity. It is closely associated with the fear of old age and the fear of death. Symptoms include hypochondria, searching for symptoms, and self-coddling. The cure is to forget symptoms and focus on health. The fourth is the fear of loss of love. This is the most painful of all the 6 basic fears. It probably plays more havoc with the body and mind than any of the other basic fears. Symptoms include jealousy, fault-finding, and gambling. The cure is to develop self-reliance and understand that love cannot be bought or forced. The fifth is the fear of old age. This fear grows out of two sources. First, the thought that old age may bring with it poverty. Second, arising from false and cruel teachings of the past. Symptoms include apologizing for one's age, dressing like a younger person, and the fear of losing independence. The cure is to accept age as a time of wisdom and understanding. The sixth is the fear of death. To some, this is the cruelest of all the basic fears. The reason is obvious. The terrible pangs of fear associated with the thought of death, in the majority of cases, may be charged directly to religious fanaticism. Symptoms include the habit of thinking about dying instead of making the most of life. The cure is acceptance of death as an inescapable necessity and focusing on leaving a legacy. A man whose mind is filled with fear destroys his own chances of intelligent action. He transmits these destructive vibrations to the minds of all who come into contact with him. You have absolute control over only one thing, and that is your thoughts. This is the most significant and inspiring of all facts known to man. It reflects man's divine nature. This divine prerogative is the sole means by which you may control your own destiny. If you fail to control your own mind, you may be sure you will control nothing else. The most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with a definite purpose, backed by a definite plan. Wealth, freedom, and happiness wait for the person who creates a definite plan, backs it with burning desire, and refuses to quit until the goal is reached. Thanks for reading this deep dive summary. If you want to master your mind and unlock more secrets to wealth and personal power, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We bring you the most potent insights from the world's greatest books to help you level up your life.